Gilberto! Yeah!
Give me a B. Give me a G. Give me a D. Give me an A. Give me another E. Say howdy, Paul.
Howdy. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my second instructional video. And before we get started with any new stuff, I want to fix a few mistakes that I made on my last instructional video. They're not like blatant, raging, huge mistakes, but just things that I found a lot of people have seemed to overlook, probably because I didn't really explain them well enough. About a good 99.9% of the last video was all based on this kind of thing, the old 3-note per string, kind of like picking, alternate picking starting with a downstroke kind of thing. Millions of variations on that, and it's all based on being able to do that lick, cleanly and with some amount of control. But one thing that is pretty easy to forget, or must be because I've seen a bunch of people doing it, is forgetting about things like dynamics and control of the general tone of the string. By that I mean like being able to mute it when you want to, or being able to have it open. And by dynamics, being able to play it real light and mute it if you want, or real open and loud. And the basic way to practice this is just by doing that exact thing. A clean tone helps. I mean, if you turn down your volume a little bit and get like a twangy kind of clean tone, you can hear it a lot better. So initially, just try that lick, but do it real quiet and muted, and try to do it at a tempo where it's pretty quick, that you're comfortable with. Something like, then try the same thing, but hit it real hard and don't mute it. And then try to go between the two different feels. If you can play it quicker, great. But this takes a lot more control than just hitting everything with the same attack and the same volume. And this will really help you to give it a more musical, just put it in context musically better in any way you play it in a song or in an unaccompanied solo. It'll give you a lot more control. It's a lot more expressive that way. With distortion, it'll sound a little bit more like this. Let me try it like this. I'll hit it real light and muted first. Start hitting it harder. Light and muted. Now, if you're not comfortable with this lick yet, or any, fast picking things, just try it with maybe a single note. Take like an A note on the D string or something, and just practice playing that in one note, real lightly and real muted and quiet, and then get real loud with it. You can take any tempo you want. Maybe start off with something like, and get louder, not faster, but louder. Now, the actual technique for this isn't necessarily hitting it much harder with a pick, but using more of the pick to hit it, which ends up hitting the string harder. In other words, I'm sort of lowering my pick into the string. When I'm picking it lightly, I'm still picking it pretty hard, but you're just using the very tip of the pick, And then I lower the pick in to hit it harder because it uses a larger part of the pick, so it whacks it a little bit better, that's how, even when you pick lightly, you're still picking pretty hard, but you're only using a little teeny part of the end of the pick, so it still has a lot of control, but it has the kind of dynamics that you want, the kind of dynamic control that you want. And it's a really, really good exercise to control that. You know, again, try to do a lot of different tempos. Maybe start out with something slow like that, and then if you can, with practice, start to speed it up, you know. A lot of different things. Another thing is accenting, being able to accent certain notes sort of on purpose. A great way of practicing that is, again, the same kind of idea. Maybe you could take a number, a very musical number like 8, and accent, you know, play 8 notes and accent the first one. So go like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 1 is always accented, and the other ones are quieter, you know. And again, that's, you know, pretty slow tempo, all alternate picking. Try speeding it up a little bit. Again, that takes a lot more control than just hitting, you know, just doing straight, you know, sort of non-dynamic version of it, or not accented. You can also practice that by reversing the stroke, starting with an upstroke instead. A little bit harder. Upstrokes just tend to be a little bit harder. It's a great exercise, and it sort of gives you a speed limit on your whole picking. You know, you'll never get any simpler than just playing one note and picking it. So you know that if you start doing things where you go to other strings, you know, or doing string skipping or whatever, it's going to be a lot more complicated, and then chances are it's going to have to be slower than anything you do. So in other words, you know, see how quick you can get with and control everything on one note, and then you have that as sort of your speed limit for other licks. Again, an example of that, if you can do this, it means that you're going to probably you know, not have too much trouble doing something a little more complex that's the same picking speed. And you know, but you're not going to be able to exceed that, you know, and that's the first thing. And one more thing before we get to the terror death licks. One more thing about dynamics. When you're working on a lot of these faster licks and a lot of things that require real, you know, very precise technique, you tend to sort of have your right and left hands be doing these very accurate things and moving real perfectly and everything, which is great for that sort of thing. Although, try not to forget that there's a lot of guitar feels that are really cool that are a lot looser and have a lot less efficient but still cool moves. Like, for instance, you can just take 3 notes, like you know, something like that, G, A, C, A. And if you did it, you know, the old precise method with very little picking motion, something like that. But a lot of times, you know, in a rock context, it sounds really cool if you actually, you know, get your arm pretty far up and really whack. That sort of thing. You almost get a percussive kind of sound from the lower strings. You got to make sure that you have them sort of blocked out so they don't go. You know, so don't do that. You can use your thumb on your left hand or the palm of your hand on your right. And when you hit all those strings, you get that whack that really sounds cool. You know. You can also hit open strings if they're in the right key, like. You can kind of strum, sort of Jimi Hendrix thing he used to do a lot, where he'd sort of strum a note and play along with it, doing simple melodies, but it would sound real intense, which is a lot more exciting feel than, you know, the efficient way. So there's a lot of different ways. You know, don't put yourself into a rut where you always pick everything with the same dynamics. You know, be aware that there's other things where you can really whack it if you want to, and get a lot of different feels. You may not be able to play as fast, but it'll give you a whole different emotional impact on you, your audience, your mom, you know, whoever.
We want a good time, we want a blast. Come on, Paul, we're going to be fast.
Okay, it seems like everybody wants to know some incredibly fast picking licks, and this is one of my favorites. It has sort of an ambiguous timing to it. It basically just came out of some pull-offs that I was doing, and I tried to pick them, and they seemed to work great. But I found this works best unaccompanied, unless you do a lot of songs in 9/8 or some time signature that you know, few would dare to play. But this is basically how it goes. It's all on 2 strings, the B string and the E string, and it's all in G minor. And I'm just going to play through it real slow. That's basically the first pattern of it. From there, it just does the same kind of pattern, but starting on that new note. So that from there, it would go. From there. From there. And then I ascend the same thing. And you're back at your original note. So let me play through the whole thing without stopping so you can hear how it sounds together. Something like that. Now, before you even attempt doing this quick, it's really important to just sort of take one section and get it down. So you probably want to start at the top and just go, you get that much of it. All alternate picking, starting with the downstroke. And the thing that really keeps me on the ball doing this is concentrating on where the left hand shifts positions, and for some reason it always ends up being a downstroke there. So if I sync up, my left hand shifts and my downstrokes seems to help a lot. So I concentrate on going down, down, because those are the 2 shifts. Down, down. And I found that that really keeps me in sync with my 2 hands. So let me play the whole thing pretty quick and see if it works. And here's the same thing. Let me try out a little more distortion and the treble pickup to get that mean sound.
Pentatonic Licks. Pentatonic Licks. Pentatonic Licks. Pentatonic Licks.
Here are some pentatonic licks that are 2 notes per string, but they're still fast. This is sort of a 16th note feel in A minor pentatonic, and it sounds something like this. Let me see if I can get through it. And basically what I'm doing is this kind of pattern where got an A note on the D string and I descend 3 notes in A minor pentatonic, that kind of thing, using the pull-off to make it easier to pick, basically. And then I ascend back up to the original note and go up to the C note and back down. So the way I sort of look at it is these 2 things. This is the first part, and this is the second part. So it's A, G, E. Think about them notes, and G, A, C. So the 2 parts together. That's the main sort of meat and potatoes. In fact, that'll give you a real good kind of triplet lick. Slower. Sped up. And then all I did to make it a 16th note feel is add 2 more notes on the end that we've already played a million times, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. And then I added on A and G, just descending again on the same scale. So I'm repeating a lot of notes, but it ends up sounding cool. That's the whole lick. And just that, cycled over and over, will sound pretty cool, you know. Again, check out the accents. That's a real important thing. All I did was put that on each set of 3 strings in the pentatonic scale. So I'd start the first one maybe on the A string and do that pattern. On those 3 strings, keeping within the shape of A minor pentatonic. Then do the one based on the D string. This is the one we started on. Then do the one on the G string, which happens to be the D note. Same kind of pattern, a little bit slower. And some kind of thing based off the B string. Let me play it all together so it makes some kind of sense. It's the first one, second one, third one, fourth one. Maybe end it with a bend. And you put it all together.
Pentatonic licks, more pentatonic licks. Pentatonic licks, more pentatonic licks.
Here's a variation of the same thing. Basically, we've already done this. Sounds like this. It's that triplet one, which I sped up about 2 minutes ago. And you can do that same process of using that lick on each set of 3 strings. You know, so you start again on the E note, and then do the same thing on the A note, on the D note, and on the G note. So altogether it's going to sound like this. Next part, next set of strings, the B string, and end with the bend if you want or something. And we play a little quicker all together. Try it again with some distortion. One of my favorite, sequences there.
Hey Paul, how about a bluesy version of that?
Here's yet another version of that kind of thing. This one has the blues note added, which is the flat 5. And, sinister sounding if used the right way. The fingering is a little bit different. On this one, I'm up in 7th position, and the basic notes we're using are those half step apart there. Be, I guess, E flat and D sharp, or wait a minute, E flat is D sharp, E flat and D. And you've got a 3-note stretch on the D string and the A string. The notes would be C, A, and G, E. So the whole thing, that's your shape. The pattern, real similar to the stuff we've been doing, where the first part goes, that's the same thing as, but different set of strings, or I mean, slightly higher on the neck, but still pentatonic. Then at the end, I put in this little sequence. I go descend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes in the scale, and then end it with a little descending 3 on the end. So real slow, that sounds like. That's the part that goes on the end. So the whole thing together is going to sound like this. time. And if you hit that hard, mute it, and play it a little bit quicker, it sounds really cool. Something like.
Hey, how about some arpeggios?
Okay, I know there's a bunch of arpeggio meisters out there, and this one hopefully will give you what you need to do some arpeggios that will sound cool. I went through a lot of different sort of techniques personally with arpeggios, a lot of sweep picking stuff, a lot of string skipping, and just different ways of doing them. And I found that for me the string skipping stuff really works great because it's easy to keep in a solid tempo, and it's easy to do different phrases with it. Let me give you an example of an exercise I worked out. Hate using the word exercise, but it, yes, I've used it as a warm-up, but it sounds cool too. It's a musical thing. It's based off this one lick, which, if you saw the last video, you've seen this lick. It's in D major. All I'm doing is 2 notes on the high E string, F sharp and D. 2 notes on the G string, which should be A and F sharp. So right there you get a string skip. You're not using the B string at all, you're skipping over it. Don't play it, because it'll sound bad if you do. Yeah. The lowest note is D with your second finger on the D string, 12th fret, D major. There it is. The picking for this, I don't know, it's kind of weird. For me, it's always been easy because it's just 3 downstrokes, down, down, down. But a lot of people just have trouble with it initially, so metronome it a bunch, try to get it down so it feels comfortable because it sounds pretty cool. Then all I do is ascend with using those same notes. Back up to the top. For that, I do 2 upstrokes and a bunch of hammer runs and pull-offs. So the whole thing sounds like that. Now right there you can do a lot of variations, you know, like right there is one that you know, with sweep picking that'd be quite a hassle.
That was quite a hassle.
Or you can get more complex intervals and jumping around with this sort of thing. Let me slow that one down a little bit.